Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. It is Monday, that means we're moving into a new week, and new weeks mean new themes, and this week's theme is an exploration of a genre. That genre is melodic death metal, or melodeath for short. Today we're going to be looking at a band called Death, and if I remember correctly from some of the comments, the death metal genre was either created or these guys were just at the forefront of the creation of the genre death metal. So this song came out in 95, and it is Death's Crystal Mountain. Yeah, I like those 16th note bass kicks, really giving it this nice gallop, lots of energy. Ooh, that bass work. Using some dotted quarters to offset the speed that's going on elsewhere. Yeah, really cool rhythmic idea there, having the faster and the slower, but being perfectly in sync. Basically like 8th versus 16th. Actually, I think that's 16th versus quarter. Went Phrygian for just a second. Ooh. Like a pitched pick slide, just to get that scratchy timbre out of it. A slave to the curse, forever confined. Lots of little tempo changes. I love the cymbal work right here. Yeah, really cool. There was a clear divide there in the middle of the solo into two 8-bar phrases, but for the most part, it was a very smoothly transitioned solo. Shatter the myth. Don't cut yourself on your words against dreams made of steel. Such a wild shift going from that super driving heaviness into this sort of calm atmospheric idea. I like how the vocals are doing the same thing, but the music under it's changing, providing a bit of variation to an idea we already know. To assume from ignorance, inflicting wounds with a cluster dagger. The cymbal work's just amazing. Okay, so that part is 8 notes versus half notes. I'm certain of it this time. Inside Crystal Mountain, commandments are reborn. Yeah. And revisiting that Phrygian idea that we got a whole 2 bars of earlier. Yeah, very cool. If this is what mellow death is, I'm on board. Casually, I'm on board casually. I'm on board from a critical perspective, but I typically am of most music. There's always something really cool to dig into with a lot of this stuff. But on a casual listening, I'm really digging this. Except for that vocalist, I'm expecting it's death metal, with some melodic elements tacked onto it. I'm kind of expecting a lot of growling this week, but I would really love to find a band that can capture this sound, but utilize some vocal techniques that I have more of a preference for, or at least balance out the growls with something else. Um, Even if it's fries, more, I guess the popular fry scream that a lot of bands typically utilize. Um, that's what my ears are more acclimated towards. But even having some cleans over this, there's enough melody in here that some clean vocals could go a long way of bringing in some harmony or some counterpoint to that just isn't present with the pure rhythmic element in the growls. And it is interesting that the growls did seem to be pitched, and a couple of times I felt like the notes that, at least what the overtones were producing, fit really well with what was going on in the guitars, but it seems almost accidental, and I wish that that element was just more intentional and implemented more often, just to provide, like I said, a bit of that additional melody to work as counterpart or harmonization with the guitar lines, the melody already in the song. But the music, I'm here for the music. It has a lot of the elements I'm looking for in rock and metal, but it also has that heaviness and punchiness of some more harsher metal styles that I have troubles getting into. So I think this is a good midpoint for me between what I'm used to and pushing into some other ideas. But all of that is subjective elements. What I would do or how I approach this casually. But let's dig into some of the critical stuff and start analyzing what's going on here, because there's some really cool things. The band's kind of all over the place, which I'm running into this idea, and I was discussing it with somebody on the Discord channel, and kind of came to this idea that the 90s were very much like the 70s in that they were beginning to become very experimental. And my brain keeps going to this, and I keep thinking about 90s bands and 90s genres and what was popping up in the 90s, and just sort of this fast reproduction and growth in the rock and metal scenes of, this massive expansion into new ideas. And yeah, the 90s were very cool, and I don't think it is any coincidence that this came out in 95. I don't know when Death was formed, but if these were at the forefront of the creation of this genre, yeah, it makes a lot of sense that it came out around the 90s. Like I said, it's a running theory of mine. I'm still working on it, but it seems to be pretty accurate so far. Now, let's see. Let's dig into some of the cool stuff that they were doing. First of all, we have some really interesting things going on with melody. One of the strongest aspects I noticed here is sort of a play on counterpoint, but we usually don't hear two distinct melodies going on. They're two parallel ideas. The most prominent that I can think of was a really cool idea of implementing a bit of rhythmic ideas to create a step, like a stair pattern, I suppose you could say, with the two guitars, where one was playing eighth notes and one was playing quarter notes. So this one would play four notes every time this one plays one, but they were moving alongside the music, right alongside each other. And yeah, I really love that. It's a cool idea. It injects some rhythmic complexity into the idea while also providing some of the harmonic ideas that create this idea of a harmonic floor with a melody above it, but also creating dyads as well, where we have these two notes creating like a mini chord all throughout this entire passage. And they brought that up 3 times, I think it was. The first time I miscounted the notes because the tempo's so fast and I was internalizing it in my head bobbing and body moving or whatever at double that, basically listening to it. I guess you could say half. I was feeling it in half because honestly it's a very fast tempo, so instead of bouncing my body like at the speed they were going, I was half as often feeling that tempo, feeling that pulse. So that's why the first time I said it was 16th notes and quarters, but once I remembered that the tempo was twice as fast as I was feeling it, I had to cut those in half. But yeah, so that's really cool. That's something that we actually see a lot in some classical ideas, classical songs, is creating a step pattern to, like I said, create the harmony and the dyads there, but also have a strong floor for the melody to play on top of. And it's a great way to get a bit of complexity out of only 2 lines. And that was something that I can't think of any other specific moment, but it was something that happened and popped up a lot, was giving both guitars very similar ideas, but not exactly similar, usually using some sort of rhythmic idea to split them so that you get that harmony without that straight harmony where they're always playing, you know, a fifth apart or whatever, and you're getting the same exact chordal characteristics everywhere throughout. By having one person stay stationary and the other person moving more often, you get this combination where the notes are not always the same distance apart, and you're getting more characteristics, more colors out of those lines. So yeah, really cool stuff going on there. They switched into Phrygian mode a couple of times. The first time was like a bar, maybe 2 bars, and it was sort of just seemed to be tossed in there. I guess it was a bit of foreshadowing for that classical guitar bit at the end. But yeah, very interesting. Again, just adding a little bit of color, a little bit of flavor in here. And provide... Phrygian is a specific chordal mode, or key mode, I suppose. And it has a very specific sound to it, as all the modes do. But to me, for whatever reason, Phrygian stands out very explicit. When I hear it, my brain immediately snaps to that. It doesn't... I don't go crazy. My brain immediately snaps, say, hey, that's Phrygian. A lot of people might associate it with Middle Eastern music, but it definitely has those kind of qualities to it. And yeah, it's really cool that they just kind of tossed it in there a little bit. And it's weirder even that it fits so well at the end when the whole band didn't shift to Phrygian. We had the band playing what they were playing the whole time, and then we had these little licks from the classical guitar playing sparsely over top it. I think it was like a 1 bar phrase every 4 bars or so. But it's so cool how it just fit over without any clashing or dissonance or anything like that. So I really enjoyed that. Like I said, it's these little ideas of spice, of flavor, of color just being tossed in here to change up from the standard metal formula that this song very well could have been. There's also this back and forth. I don't... I don't know where this comes from, but I absolutely love it. There's a back and forth here between just like this heavy death metal drive, lots of energy, lots of notes, and then moving into this like light, atmospheric, calming, bass heavy atmosphere. I already said atmosphere, but like atmosphere. We get this nice groovy bass line that's doing these dotted quarter notes against some of the straight eighths that are going on in the guitar. So you get this nice rhythmic diversity there. But the overall atmosphere is just like a chill lounge. A little heavier than typical lounge, but it has this chill atmosphere that kind of reminds me of like lounginess within this metal context, this metal framework. And that is just very interesting. Like I said, I'm not sure how it fits in, but for some reason they find a way to nicely transition into and out of it every time that doesn't make it feel out of place. Now, it's not a smooth transition. It tends to be right on the bar. Last bar we were doing this heavy stuff. This bar we're doing this calm stuff. They don't really have this smooth transition between the two. But the fact that it never really feels out of place boggles my mind because it's just such a drastic difference. But I really enjoy that. One, it provides a bit of contrast between the two ideas, so you never really settle into one. You sort of move back and forth between these two, and it provides a bit of activity, I suppose you could say, where you don't get bored of one or the other. But then on the flip side, it also has these moments of breathing time so that you're not constantly being hit with the aggressiveness of the more metal oriented stuff. And it like I said, for me, it provides a bit of breathing room. I can calm down and be, okay, we're done with all that hyper, super metal stuff, and we can just chill for a bit. We got this nice bass line going on. The drums don't calm down, though. The drums don't calm down at all. Those bass kicks, I think he actually ramps up his bass kick speed going into that section and sustaining through that section. It still has that drive. There's still a bit of that metal intensity, but I do like how it just backs it down a little bit. I think there's only one time that the vocals were present there, and so it gives me a little bit of breathing room from the vocals as well, a chance to digest some of the music that's going on. It is interesting, though. I mentioned that they do a bit of theme, and I mentioned that the vocals were played here once. I'm pretty sure it was only once, and it was closer to the end, but it was really cool because the vocals retained that metal verse section. The rhythmic, I think the lyrics were the same, but the rhythmic quality was identical. And we went into this smoother, loungy section with the double bass kicks. But the vocals were like they were recorded in that metal section prior, so we get to see them in a completely different context. And then the vocals change to the next section, and then the music a few bars later changes into the next section too. So much like yesterday when I was exploring how the song took a theme and we saw it in different contexts, and the song was a slow evolution where some parts would move on and some parts would stay, and it created this idea of like this not disjointed movement through the song, but sort of a very smooth transition throughout the different pieces. We see that at the end here, where the different pieces are moving into the next section at different rates. And not only does it give us a bit of smoothness to it all, as there's a lot of overlap between section A and section B, but it also allows us to hear these sections in different contexts, which gives us more spice, more color, more flavor to the song. It's all these little ideas that change it up. There's not a lot going on in the song, but they do a lot to create variations and embellishments on these different ideas to make it much greater than the sum of its parts. And I absolutely love that about this track. I think that's the big standout to me. There is a lot of kind of standard metal ideas going on. We have some of the aggressiveness of what would become black metal and death metal. We have some of the melody that kind of comes from before it, and we see this little mixing pot in the middle of these two ideas where, the sound of the 70s and 80s are slowly merging into the sound of the 90s and 2000s. So that's really cool, but it's this idea of taking these sounds that already work, that are, already good sounds, and utilizing them in ways and mixing and matching the way that they're combined with each other to create new ideas throughout the song. We have a few sections, but we get to hear them in so many different contexts that it sounds like the song is actually more varied than it is. And that's going to be my big takeaway here, is their ability to create so much diversity through a very small set of tools. Now, moving forward with this Melodeath, this is sort of what I'm looking for. This is what I'm going to be casually what I'm looking for. Aside from the vocals, I really love the aggression that they retain, as well as adding in a lot of melodic components. We saw some really cool stuff like harmonic floors. We saw different types of note distances to create different characteristics and chordal qualities, and we saw some exploration of some different key modes. So really cool stuff overall, and I do look forward to a lot of these melodic components being meshed with the harsher metal sounds. Almost like a merger of classical composition, or I guess we could call it melodic composition, and the sonorism that metal is typically known for, where the music is created for how it sounds, how it feels, the atmosphere it creates, not so much for the theoretical use of musical knowledge. And sort of, the mixing grounds of those two ideas. I love it. So those are my thoughts on Death's Crystal Mountain. This is where you guys come in, hit me up in the comments. Let me know if there's anything in here you enjoyed. Let me know if this is Melodeath. I hear melodic aspects, I hear some death metal, but I've also seen some comments that death is not Melodeath. So I'm kind of interested in if those comments are correct, and if so, what is the difference between melodic death metal and death metal that is melodic? I suppose. When you're done commenting, you can head up to the description box. There's a link in there for Linktree, which is a super nifty menu for finding everything related to the channel. Maybe you want to join me on Discord, join the community on Discord, follow me on Twitter, support the channel through Patreon, or submit a special selection. All those links are in there above the description box if you could like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC, with yet another video for the Melodeath theme. Until next time, remember to be critical but not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.